Last time we started on a journey from where the journey of the life starts, and we discovered that in Sikhism the journey does not start with the birth of the child. The birth of the human is not the start of the journey. The start of the journey is when that entity, when that human being starts the jap, starts the meditating the name of the Creator, who is Adi Sach, Jugadi Sach, Hai vi Sach, Nanak Hosi bhi Sach. That's when the real journey starts. For a Sikh, the life journey is not the birth. Similarly, the journey's end is not the death, because the birth is also of the body and the death is also of the body. But Gurbani says your essence, your inner being that is currently trapped in this vehicle, what we call body, it is on an eternal journey, and you need to do something to jump off that wheel of life and death, birth and death. Your journey will only finish when you have jumped off that wheel. And in Sikhism, the technique to jump off that wheel is jap. That's why this particular Vani, this particular creation has so much significance in the life of a Sikh. Now, let me remind you all that Sikh does not mean the one who dresses up in a particular way. Sikh means a disciple, a student. Student of what? Student of the path, the spiritual path, not social, economical, cultural, political, or anything else. A spiritual path that leads to that ultimate conclusion of the journey. That's how a Sikh is defined. So let's not be mistaken by this. Last time we had a lot of discussion here about socio-political, economic events going on in the day-to-day, and somehow or other we were trying to relate this with the day-to-day events. I want to emphasize this and remind everyone here that this journey has nothing to do with the outer world. It only uses the words, the language, the metaphor, the similes, the paradigms. It takes the examples from the outside world, but it is strictly talking in the inside world. So let's not try to combine the two or confuse the two. So in the last sitting, an answer was given to the most puzzling question for every human entity. And the question was raised in the statement, Kiv sachiara hoye, kiv kuda tutte pal. How do I get accepted in the ultimate domain? How do I transcend, go beyond this wall of illusion, this wall of maya, this wall of untruth, a dreamlike state? How do I awake from it? And then the answer was given, Hukm razai chalana nanak likhya naal. And the answer was surrender to the will of the ultimate creator. And then the immediate question was, well, what is the will? How do I know what is the will? And again the answer came in and said that will is within, inside every human being. Nanak likhya naal. It is written naal, within you. So, if it is written within you, that means it has the potential of being unique for every individual. Because that's why the word individual, pay the attention to that, it comes from indivisible. Individual means the something that's not divided. So if you ask yourself, are you really an individual? It's a very difficult thing. Because if you were really individual, then your mind will be focused at one single point. But your mind is scattered in 20,000 different directions. It's divided. You want to call yourself individual. You really want to believe that you are an individual. But in reality, you are not, because it means indivisible. That cannot be divided into different sections. There will be no duality. There will be no doubts or questions. The mind is constantly setting up the scenarios inside a chatterbox. So a part of you will be saying, this is what I should do. And there will be a part of you which will be saying, no, I don't want to do that. Now, if you become fully alert to this phenomena, what is that part which says, I should do this? And then what is the part which says, I should not do that? Where is this noise level coming from? When you sit in meditation and your mind wanders away. Now, if the mind has wandered away, then which is that energy which also knows that mind has wandered away? At that moment, you become aware and say, oh, now I'm thinking of this, I need to bring it back. I shouldn't do that. So the question is, where is that portion of the energy which tells you that you are not an individual, you are divided? The mind has set up a drama, is a play, and has created fictitious characters which write their own script and they play their own roles. And you, the body, can sit with closed eyes, not talking anything, not saying anything, yet you can hear the chatter going on inside. So Gurbani says, each individual, you can hear that word likhya naal when you are individual, when you are not divided. Otherwise, the sound that comes from within, the voice that will say, this is the right, there will be an equal voice there which will be saying, this is not right. Why should I do this? Why should not I do that? And then you would have another part of you which will say, well, what should I do now? I heard two voices. There is a third one who is saying, which one should I follow? So at least within you there will be three forces operating simultaneously. One saying the pro, the other saying the con, and the third one listening to both of them and getting confused and say, what should I do? And Gurbani says, the hukam, the word, the will of the Creator is within you, provided you are an individual. If you are indivisible, if with one mind you can listen, you will know exactly what to do and what not to do. You do not need to read anything, you do not need to study anything, you do not need to go discuss with anybody, you do not need to listen to anybody, you just listen to yourself. Such is the will. It is in there. So what you do? You first do the job so that you can make the mind stop chattering, stop multiple noises. When it comes to that quiet space, after this much of abhyas, practice, meditation, you will be able to absolutely hear that voice loud and clear. Okay. So that was the first step. So then Gurbani says, let me give you some indications of the will. We talked about that the will, you need to surrender to will. And it is written inside you. But let me give you some indication how you can recognize it. So it starts by saying, Hukmi hovan akar, hukm na kahya jai. Now this is a very paradoxical statement. It says that all of the creation, akar does not mean the forms, the shapes. Akar means the entire cosmos, the entire, everything that's happening. That akar, that form, small and the large and the totality of it, came through his will. And then it says, Hukm na kahya jai. It says, well, Hukum cannot be, the will cannot be explained. Wait a minute, you just started saying that the whole of the form is due to his will. Why remind me that it cannot be said? You already started saying something. If that is such a ultimate truth, you should have remained quiet about it. He says no. The fact that we have started saying does not mean that it can be said. It is only being indicated. It is a reminder that the will cannot be said and explained 100%. Well, why not? Because it has said earlier, will is written within each. Hence, it is different for different. So how to document everything? As the form is created, the will is written for that form. So that form stays for a while and then that form goes away. What to do with the will that was written inside? How can you document that? Because it doesn't stay permanent for anything. It moves. It's a continuum. Hence, it can never be put in 100% words. Anybody who tries to explain actually is indulging in self-deception and is also trying to deceive somebody else. It is impossible to explain or document the total creativity, total creation. Because the creation itself is not a be-all and end-all. Gurbani teaches us that the Creator, having created this cosmos, doesn't mean that he has stopped creating. Sikhism does not prescribe to the model that the God created the world in 6 days and then on the 7th day he rested. Do not prescribe to that, because it alludes to the limitedness of the Creator himself. as if he got tired and he needed to rest. Not only that, it says that in 6 days whatever he created, he's done. There is no more to be created. That means the creation is limited. In 6 days it's created, but after that it's done. The process is complete. Sikhism does not prescribe to that model. It is not saying it's wrong, it's not saying it's right, it's saying this model does not fit into this thinking process. Why? Because it limits the creator, it limits its creation. The creator is in a continuum creativity mode. He's creating even now. He's not stopped, he's not done. That's why he's unlimited. We cannot draw a boundary around the creator's creation. Not only that, we cannot ask the creator to draw a boundary. Because if the creator was to draw a boundary, then he would limit himself by that. So if you were to ask the creator, how great is your creation? He would be forced to say, I don't know. I am not done yet. It's still going on. It's a paradoxical statement. The creator saying, I don't know. No, it doesn't mean that he's saying that I am ignorant. No, it means he's saying that I am not done with it yet. It's a continuous process. It will continue ad infinitum. It will never stop. That's why Gurbani says, Hukmi homan akar, hukum na kaha jai. It cannot be said in its totality because it's not done. Hukmi homan jia, hukum mile vadai. Most of the people read it wrong. They say Hukmi homan ji. It is not ji. It's ji. Ada hai now say. Jia means the inner. It's not talking of the body container. It's talking about the jia, the suksham, it's talking of the inner body. He says all the containers are created and then there is a content in it. That's his will, what type of content you get. Hukum mele vadai. This is something to be pondered upon. He says, who gets the credit and who gets the discredit is his will. Or everybody works with a good intention, does everything with a good intention. Some get one result, some get the other. That's his will. When the entity mind-body system sits in a mood of complaining, why me, is not accepting the will. The question would be, why not you? If not you, who should it be? Right? Would you want some, right? Why me? Okay, alright, fine. Do you want to nominate somebody instead of you? It's a very interesting thing to see. When we say why me, I remember I used to sing a song which had a very profound line in it. इसे है सितारे कहाँ इतने आकाश में हर किसी को जो कोई सितारा मिले कश्तियों के लिए मझधार भी है क्या जरूरी है सबको किनारा मिले. Look at this. He says, है सितारे कहाँ इतने आकाश में हर किसी को जो कोई सितारा मिले कश्तियों के लिए मझधार भी है क्या जरूरी है सबको किनारा मिले. Means what? It says some boats are created for that purpose because they need to become the fodder for the storm. I mean, what kind of a storm it would be that the storm comes and no boat is destroyed. Some boats are made for that destruction. So when we challenge His grace, His will, and that's what Gurbani is saying, Hukmi hovan jiya, hukum mile vadiyai. Now the question is, why would you choose this one to be this way and this one to be that way? And the answer is, that's where the will lies. That's the grace. That's the will. So, if you look at the whole creation, creation is not based on the law of justice. Very difficult for a human mind to accept that fact. We run around the world seeking the justice. So long as I get the justice, I am okay. So what is the justice? Well, because somebody stole or killed or did something to me, let that somebody be also killed. Now that is the justice. Gurbani asked that question in a very profound, simple way. Is that a justice? If the grass is grown on the ground and the horse comes in and eats that grass, well, a horse needs the fodder and the food. What about the grass? Is that justice to the grass to be just born to be eaten? Gurbani says the creation is not based on the law of justice. It is based on the law of balance. Remember that. Looking around yourself, the creation is the entire law of balance. On the earth, there is only 25% of the land and 75% or more is water. Why? Why not 50-50? Because the balance is required. So much water is required for the climate to move around, to sustain the life on 25% of the land. Look at the air. For 200 miles of radius around this planet, there's only air of various thickness. Why not? Because it's required to create, sustain the life on the planet. You take the shield away, the life on the planet goes away. So when we talk of justice from the Creator, we have not understood the law of His grace, the will. The one we're talking today, we are discussing hukum. What is a hukum? Well, it is written with you, but let me give you some indications. You are going to get confused, because you're going to start asking why it is a hukum that so and so is so pretty and I am so ugly. So and so is so rich and I am so poor. So and so is so healthy and I am sick. You're going to start asking that question. Law of creation is based on the balance. If you need to teach somebody how to take care of a sick person, what you going to do? Create a dummy and tell him to consider that dummy as a sick person? You think he's going to take care of that? No. Nature is going to make somebody that much sick. It's going to give somebody a cancer so that others around can learn how to take care of a person who has cancer. Think about it. It is a role given. You have to accept that role with grace, with surrendering, with saying, Thy will be done. Why me? Question does not exist when we are talking of hukam. Why should I die and so many live? Well, by my dying is going to teach my children how to survive in a life without the help of a father. That entity needs to learn that. Hence his father will be removed from the picture. No questions asked. So when the nature creates an environment where there is a discomfort, perceived discomfort, there is a reason for it. That entity needs to learn. That entity is resisting learning the law, which is the law of balance. Law, not law of equality, not law of justice. So, hukmi homan akar, hukm na kahya jai, hukmi homan jiya. It's not G. Don't read it wrong. Jajje nu bihari hai, agge aida laga hoya hai. Hukmi homan jiya. What that jiya means? That's the inner consciousness. This is the container. The body is not jiya. What is inside the body, which makes it move, which it makes it behave, that's jiya. That G is 3. Hukmi homan jiya. Then hukum mile vadiyai. Now what does vadiyai mean? Because it goes on to say, hukmi uttam neech, hukmai likh, dukh, sukh paiye. Hukmi uttam neech. What does that mean? Well, let's take some examples from the nature. If you go to look at the charcoal, its basic content is carbon. Right? Charcoal, whether soft or hard, its basic content is carbon. All of you are science students, you know that if you look at the diamond, the basic content is carbon. One carbon, another carbon. You pick up that carbon and the whole hand is dirty and black. And you pick up this carbon and you don't want to leave it. What has happened? He says, in every portion of the creation, to which Guru Gobind Singh said, Andej jeraj seta jakini utpuj khan bahaur rachdini. He says the creation, whether it is coming from the egg, whether it's coming from the placentia, anda zair, andej zairaj, sedaj pasina. So whether it is coming from the moisture, from the egg, or from the placentia, they all will have varieties. And the fourth creation, Utpuj Khan, Bahora Rachadini, means the vegetation. The creation is at 4 levels. The solid, the first, matter, then the plant life, then the animal and bird life, and then the human life. 4 layers. So Gurbani says, look at all these 4 layers and you will find the level. So in the matter world, you can look at the charcoal and you can look at the diamond and the pearl. Okay, let's look at the plant world. You can look at the thorn with the flower, which hurts you and cuts you. Or you can go and get the wood from the chandan, which gives nothing but fragrance. Nobody wants the thorn to bring in the home. And chandan, that wood, the furniture of that wood is the most expensive furniture in the entire universe. It's a very rare tree, and that tree is usually infested with the snakes. To get the wood from that tree is very difficult. Why snake needs the chandan? Why needs that? Very simple. Because when he creates the poison in his throat, there's a burning sensation. So much that he needs to cool it off. So he wraps his body around the tree and put his head on the branch to cool. Hence, they mostly are there. Very difficult to shoo them away and bring the wood. Okay, let's take the bird. You can look at the crow or the vulture, or you can look at the swan. There is a range of those birds' life also. He created the lower end of the spectrum and the upper end of the spectrum. You look at the animals who walk on the ground, you can look at the cow or you look at the swine. They both walk on the ground. The quality is different. Similarly in humans, you can look at the Buddha or you can look at the Ravana or you can look at the Hitler. They're all there. So, Hukmi, Uttam, Neech. So now again the question will come, why? Why to have such a large variety of creation? If by talking of the charcoal, and I don't want to hold that, but I want to pick up the diamond, why create charcoal at all? Why not have diamond? Finish. Just have only diamonds. And the answer is obvious. The nature is based on the law of balance. It's not on the law of equality. Charcoal required for the sustenance of life much more than the diamond is required for the sustenance of life. So Gurbani says, understand, that is will. So when you have a role and you look at this spectrum, you look at Kabir or Guru Nanak sitting here on the top of the heap, and you are sitting here at the bottom of the heap, and you are wondering, why did the God do this injustice to me? Why can't I be Nanak too? The Gurbani says, that's his will. You need to, if you want to get to there, you will be given the way to get there. If you want, and you have recognized the fact that wherever the Buddha is sitting, wherever Jesus is sitting, wherever Muhammad is sitting, I want as a human being get to that stage. Then Gurbani says, start the journey. Start where? Says Jap. That's the start of your journey. Being born is not your start of your journey. Somebody misled you. Your journey will truly start when you have recognized the fact that you are sitting at the bottom of the heap. When the desire will come, the urge will come, the energy will come, that I want to get on the top of the heap. And Gurbani says, Jap, start that. So, Hukmi Uttam Neech, Hukme Lekh Dukh Sukh Paiye. This is one of the most difficult thing for a human mind to accept. Reality is that when the Sukha is there, I really don't give a damn where the God is and if there is anyone at all. Dukh Daru, Sukh Rog Bhaya. In Sukha, in a enjoyable state of existence where the physical senses have everything that they need. Whether you are sitting at the bottom of the heap or the top of the heap is not even in your consciousness. You couldn't care less. Why? Because the senses are too busy enjoying what it's getting. That's the biggest trap of the senses. When the senses are enjoying it, we all are parents, so we can see, you can watch the child, try to wake him up at 7 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning. You will have no difficulty waking up at 12 o'clock in the midnight. Try waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's when he is in the deepest possible sleep. Why? Now he is enjoying it. Very difficult. Similarly, whether it is the enjoyment of the touch, whether it's the enjoyment of the eyes, enjoyment of the ears, when you're listening to a good story, you can watch the people watching the television in their own home, having a rented Indian movie, and watch how many tissue they use looking at the screen. Just watch. What's going on here? Nobody's died there. Nobody's suffering there. That actor who's playing that drama is laughing all the way to the bank. And I'm sitting in my home, 14,000 miles away, crying my heart out, looking at the screen. What's going on here? The senses are enjoying it. The tears are not because you are feeling, tears are because you are identifying yourself with that character which has been displayed on the screen. Now, if that can happen from that drama, what was to happen if this is the drama and somebody is watching from the other dimension? Now, if I am that character playing the role right now, I am playing the speaking role, you are playing the listening role, somebody looking from that dimension, what do you think is doing? Similarly, a drama is going on a screen. This drama lasts 70 years, that drama lasts 70 minutes. That's the only difference. So Gurbani says that when the sukha comes, you get lost in there, you forget the will. And when the dukkha comes, when the negative comes, again you forget the will and you do what? You complain. Why me? I have done nothing wrong. I have never hurt anybody. And I normally like to ask this simple question. When you say, I haven't hurt anybody, how do you know that? मैंने किसी का दिल नहीं दुखाया जी. Never hurt anybody. I've never said anything knowingly. Fine. You haven't said it, but how do you know what happened to the other? I didn't say anything, I just came back without saying anything. How do you know that did not hurt somebody? That you just came without saying anything? You may be saying, hey, no, I went there, paid my respect, said absolutely nothing, neither good nor bad. I just came back. How could I have hurt? How do you know that? Gurbani says, अपने कर्म की गत मैं क्या जानूं बाबा रे? How do I know? Was it correct to say something or not say something? How do I know? And then if I said something, how do I know how the other one received? I said everything correctly. It just happened here in this congregation. One of our members went to Philadelphia and met one of my friends who had known me for about 30 years. His children, my children, and we very close friends. And they met and said, well, we meet every alternate Friday and listen to him, but I have a complaint about him. He said, what's the complaint? Well, some of the things he says that, Guru Gobind Singh didn't do this and Guru Gobind Singh could not have said, and he said that hair is not necessary for sex. So they smiled and they said, well, we understand. We know him. He wouldn't say something like that. So he came to me then afterwards. He said, well, I met your friend and I told him that. And he didn't believe me. And I said, well, of course he wouldn't believe you. Because this is not what I said. You heard something and you turned it around and you communicated something that's a misquotation. But I'm sure those who did not know me, they will accept that statement. And now you are walking around with some things. And if you were to bring, because everything is recorded here, if you were to replay back, I maintain openly without any hesitation that keeping of the hair or not keeping of the hair has nothing to do with doing bhakti and meeting God. It has nothing to do with it. Gurbani says that, I am not saying it. If you're talking of a particular uniform for a particular group, for a particular association, a particular system, particular culture, that's a different story. But if you're going to talk about spirituality, Gurbani says, Kabira, Preet ek syo kiye, aan dubda jaye, bhave lambe kes kar, bhave karan muraye. No. How I am going to say anything different than the Brahmgyani? But you heard something totally different and you communicated something totally different. And you are sitting hurt because I am not propagating that the Sikh must have a long hair. Because I am not propagating here a culture. I am talking of spirituality. I am talking of mysticism. I am looking for the mystical message in these words. Not cultural, not economic, not social, not political. I have nothing to do with it. So, Gurbani says, when you talk about dukkha and sukha, in both cases you are going to either going to forget, if you remember you're going to complain, because you have not understood the will. What is the will? Eti dukh bhukh sadmar evi dat teri dhata. He says, whatever is coming, if tomorrow I am going to develop Alzheimer, then all of you around who have known me would be required to learn to meet me and deal with it. Hence, I have been given the role of being an Alzheimer patient. How would my friends deal with it? Would they run away? Would they never want to see me again? Never face me again? Or would they want to come and sit down and try to make the best of what they got? Nature creates that environment. Amongst ourselves, those of you who have been coming here for a while, you know we had a cancer patient who just died a few months ago. And he used to stand up here in this congregation and he used to say, would you guys pray for me so that, what's my use? Why I'm here, alive now, as a pure vegetation? And that used to be my only response. Your wife, your children, your friends, they are learning how to deal with a cancer patient, how to treat a cancer patient, how to take care of it, how to tolerate it. And the people are also knowing those who cannot deal with it run away. They cannot watch you. But the nature has to create that drama. Somebody has to take that role. So when that role comes, can you accept that will? Hukmi uttam neech, hukme likh dukh sukh paiye. Can you deal with that? Can you accept that role? Or are you going to become rebellious? Are you going to become absolutely revolted and say, you should not be doing that? There is a beautiful Sufi story. I'll try to tell it in a short way. That there is an old lady, very sick. It's raining and she's lying on the side of the street, and there are three very small daughters, one of them still in the breastfeeding stage. And the mother is lying down, and the oldest, who must be 6, 8, is totally stunned what's going on. Middle one is just crying, and the younger one doesn't even know what to do because there is no milk available. So the story goes that the god of death sends the messenger, who's a new recruit, and say, go bring the soul of that particular woman. And he comes on the ground and looks at these three girls crying around the body, and he says, wait a minute. What's the rush of taking this old lady? Why not to give him 5, 6 years so that at least these girls can grow up enough to take care of themselves? So he goes back. And he tells his master that he did not have the courage to make those girls motherless completely. I could make them orphan. And he said, well, I really admire, you have a very soft heart, but there's only one problem in this story. So what? Well, it appears that you are becoming more smarter than the one who wrote this drama. You have declared yourself to be wiser than the one who wrote this drama. and that ain't going to work, buddy. So you better go back, and unless you have laughed 3 times on your stupidity, you will not be allowed to come back. So he comes down on the earth. So now he's sitting in the same rain, and he's shivering, and somebody walks by him and say, "What are you doing sitting here in the middle of the night?" He says, "Well, don't ask. It's a story that I can't tell." He says, "Well, okay, here is a blanket." He is the guy who makes shoes. So he says, "I just bought some stuff for my family, but looking at you, you also seem hungry, so let me feed you. Here is a blanket that I bought for my children. Here is a..." So when he gives him that and says, "Well, wait a minute. Allow me to pay you back for this." "Well, how are you going to pay me?" "Well, I'm going to be your servant." "Wait a minute, I don't need a servant. I hardly get enough business to keep myself busy." He said, "Well, don't worry about it. I won't charge you anything because I'm supposed to pay. So, no, you don't need to give me any salary. You don't even need to feed me. I will just lie down in a corner of your house. Just allow me to pay." I said, "Okay, well, come along. But let me tell you, my wife has a temper. So, I'm used to it, but so I'll warn you right now." He said, "Don't worry about it." So they open the door, and the wife sees the blanket on his shoulder, so she takes off. "How dare you?" And whatever she wanted to say, she said. And so she's taking care of the guy, and he starts laughing. So, "You are a stupid fellow. You laugh at the most inopportune time. She's giving hell to both of us, and you are laughing." He said, "Don't worry about it. I'll tell you later." That night, nobody ate, everybody in anger and so forth, and they went to sleep. Next morning, he went to the shop, took him this, and said, "Well, show me how do you make, what do you do?" So he shows him how to cut the leather and how to make shoes. He said, "Okay, now you go sit there. Give me all these samples that you, orders that you have." So in a single day, he finished all the shoes. As the people came to take the delivery, everybody has put their feet into the shoe, and they're wondering there is a certain different type of feeling in those shoes. And they can't describe the comfort they are feeling. Immediately the advertisement in the village and the city all around that there is a cobbler who makes shoes that anybody who wears it once absolutely have a heavenly feeling. The business starts growing up. It's so much now that he is the richest person in the entire area, just making shoes. And he's the only one, constant, no matter how much business comes, he never leaves everything is done. Time passes by, and suddenly the servant of the king of that area brings a very fine leather to him and says, "We are celebrating the birthday of the king. Please make the shoe. Here is the sample." Now they had a tradition that a person who's died and is being taken to the morgue will wear open-ended shoe, and the one who's celebrating something will wear closed-mouthed tip shoes. So this guy comes in, give it to this servant and say, "Make sure that is closed-ended shoe." He said, "No problem. I won't make chappal. I'll make the shoes out of it." So he goes away. In the evening, before the servant could come, the guy came in and said, "Well, did you get the king's order ready?" He said, "Yeah." And he sees that the shoe is open-ended. So now he's yelling and screaming at him. "We're going to all get killed, and I'm going to all get destroyed. The king is going to be very angry. The shoe leather was so unique, etc., etc." While he is taking care of him, and he's laughing. The king's servant comes running down. He said, "Have you made or did you complete the order?" He said, "Yeah." "What did you make?" He said, "What did you want?" He said, "The king died." He said, "Don't worry, it is not a shoe, it is open-ended chappal, take it." So now this guy is laughing, and he's trying to apologize, and crazy guy laughs at the most inappropriate time. Let alone you don't understand this. The king's mortuary, after the service, the whole of the village is coming back, and the queen stops by that shop and she has 3 girls with her, and says, I have to now make sure that they are married off quickly, they're well educated and taken care of, and since the king has died, this responsibility is mine, and I don't want to wait any longer. So why don't you take the sizes of the feet of the 3 girls and make proper shoes for them? So he looks at the 3 girls and say, before I make the shoes, I want to know, are they your real girls? And that's a very stupid question to ask a queen. So this guy says, do you want to get killed or what? You're accusing her of being of a not a good moral character. Why are you asking her then? Say, but no, I'm not going to make the shoes. Are these your real girls? And she says, well, yes they are, and no they are not. Because one very miserable night, I was just walking around and I saw an old lady dying and 3 girls crying, and I have no child. I took pity on them, brought those 3 girls into the home and raised them as my own, as princesses. They have been educated and brought up like princesses, and they're going to be married off to the princesses. And he started laughing. So now everybody is stunned and say, well, wait a minute, now it's too much. 3 times you've done this to me. And he says, okay, let me give you the secret. I'm really not a human being. I am a Rajgan who was basically punished. First time when I laughed at the stupidity of your wife, because she is only looking at from the outside. She has no idea what's going inside. And she is not willing to wait to see that I am going to change your destiny. Second time I laughed at your stupidity, because you have seen that I have turned your things around, but you still didn't have the faith in me. You still wasn't ready to kill me or get killed in the process because you had no faith. And now I am laughing at my stupidity, that has that woman not been taken out of that story, these girls would have not even grown up as beggars, much less as princesses. It was necessary to take that mother away, so that the situation created that somebody can take pity and raise these girls at a much higher level than they would ever have. So I only saw that destruction. I did not see what's going to come out of that destruction, what kind of construction is going to happen on top of that. So when a building is destroyed, when a city is destroyed, when a country is destroyed, what builds out of it? All we know, the earthquake came and so many lives were lost and so much happened. But we have no clue what's going to be built there. What's going to happen there? World Trade Center has come down and 3,000 lives have gone, and that's all we know. Gurbani says, remember, that is hukam. Can you remember that hukam? Hukme uttam neech, hukme likh, dukh, sukh paiye, ikna hukmi baksis, eka hukmi sada bhavaiye. He says that is the will. When you see somebody on the surface enjoying the creature comforts better than you, rather than the feeling of jealousy or the comparison or the greed, would you be able to remember it is his will? Ikna hukmi baksis. There are few. Why? Because there is a range in his kingdom, in his total creation. There is a beggar and a king, and in between. So you have a role in that in between, whatever that role is. Ek hukme sada bhavaiye. There are few who are in a constant go around, but that is the will. Hukme andar sabko bahar hukam na koye. Now here is where we left last time. But here is a paradox. Here is a parable. The people cannot take care of this parable, because the first end of stanza was hukam razai chalna nanak likhya na. Okay, stay within the will. Okay, fine. I understood that much. Now the second stanza says, Hukme andar sabko bahar hukm na koi. If everything is his will, then why did you tell me to stay within? I cannot go out anyway. See, this is how the Gurbani looks paradoxical, contradictory. And I get very perturbed when the people say these things in the same breath. This is our Guru, we bow to it, but it says contradictory things. It never occurs to them that it is not contradiction, it is my understanding that's contradictory. It is the language that is causing me the grief. Hukme andar sabko means what? It's basically saying that there is absolutely nothing in this universe that is not according to that will, the ultimate will. So then what is happening to me? He says, you need to stay within the hukum. I say, wait a minute. It is, everything is in there. I can't go out. He said, no, wait. You have a choice. If let's say that let's draw a small circle, and in this circle, I say you can stand in this circle, and there are different color stones that you can pick. Any stone that you pick is within that will, and picking up every stone will have a corresponding result. That's also my law. That when you pick the stone, this stone will have this thing result. If you pick up that stone, it will have this result. You have a choice. Pick one. You say, I don't want to pick any. Well, that's your choice then. You have not picked any. That's also your choice. And that choice will have this. If you don't pick up anything, here is the end result. If you pick green, this is the thing. If you pick red, this is the end. If you black, this is white. Everything has its corresponding end result. But you have a freedom to pick. And its reaction is also my predetermination. So whatever is happening with me, but I am giving you the freedom as to which direction you want to take. Now you can take the direction that will take you in a different direction that could be hurtful. That's also my will. As I cite the example of Muhammad, when Allah Baksh asked him that if everything is done by Allah, what is a human doing? So he said to Allah Baksh, stand up. He stood up. He said, pick 1 foot. He picked 1 foot. He says, now pick the second one. He said, how can I do that? So, well, that's the answer to your question. I asked you to pick the foot. I didn't say right or left. You could have picked any one of them. But once you picked one, the second is frozen. That's a law. If nature gives you the choice to pick 1 foot, irregardless as to whether you pick right or left. But it has a law that if you pick one, the second one is going to be grounded. And if you want to pick that one, you will have to put this thing down. How does it apply to your life? If you have taken the choice of negative, then you will not be able to do positive. You will be suffering the consequences of negative choices. Now, if you want to say, no, I don't want to suffer the consequences of the negative choices, okay, stop making the negative choices, make the positive one. Now, you can't make both. It's not allowed. You can only pick one. That's his will. So, both statements are correct. One says, stays within the will. Means what? Saying, make positive choices so that the suffering stays away from you. How will you make positive choices? Well, what is that hukum? Well, hukum is written inside you. Well, what is that inside me? Well, I can tie my stomach. Do you know that there were times when, particularly in China, the small feet were considered beautiful for a woman, and they used to wear glass shoes to the bed. They used to wear so tight shoes, literally, so that they can squeeze their feet to smaller. But it hurt like crazy. So you can take maagi dal, lentil, and drink a lot, and in the morning you are going to have a stomach that's so upset that there's nothing you are going to be able to do. हुक्म की है, कहते नाल लिखा बैठा है. Your body, your mind system will tell you whether you are making the right choice or not. You may slap your child because child is going out of the rhythm. While a child is sulking, you will be hurting also sitting at your own mind. You will not be feeling too great because you slap the child. Inner will tell you that wasn't the right choice. So, हुक्म की है, कहते नाल लिखा बैठा है. But you don't hear that voice. Why you don't hear that voice? Because you are not yet an individual. You are divided. You are not indivisible. So you don't hear that voice properly. And he says, हुक्मे अंदर सबको, बाहर हुक्म ना कोई. Everything that's going on is within his will. You cannot make the choice outside his will. Impossible. A fish cannot make the choice to stay outside the water on the ground. That choice is not available. But she can make any choice while she is in the water. Go south, north, east, well, downward, upward, do whatever you want. But you are not allowed one choice. That is to get out of the water. Similarly, a Jivistri is not allowed to see him directly till he is gone through the meditative states and got to the Brahma Gyan. You cannot see it. O vekhe, on another nayave, bhavtaye vada. We will come to that later. So last line he says, Nanak hukume jai bujhe. And this is one thing that the Sikhism has really stubbed their toe. The word was ta hao main kahe na koi. Not how main. How main kahe na koi. How is hangta, hankar. And main is I. Hankar te I जुड़ जाए ते how में बनती है. वो कहते how में बनेगी नहीं, पैदा ही नहीं होएगी, क्योंकि how ते मैं जुड़ नहीं सकती. Look at it. How ਵਿੱਚ ਆਇਆ, how ਵਿੱਚ ਗਿਆ, how ਵਿੱਚ ਜੰਮਿਆ, how ਵਿੱਚ ਮੂਆ, how ਵਿੱਚ ਦਿੱਤਾ, how ਵਿੱਚ. Remember that whole? It's not how में, how. How means that ahankar. How means that ego, that ahangata. And that hangta takes when the human says, I did it. How ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਣੀ ਮੈਂ ਜੋੜਦਾ ਹੈ. See, ahankar is there for everybody. But if you understood the hukam means what, जो कुछ वो कर रहे हैं, तो how ਦੇ ਨਾਲ मैं जोड़ नहीं सकती. Why? Because हुक्म is, हुक्मे अंदर सबको, बाहर हुक्म ना कोई. If everything is his will, how can I say I did it? So how and I cannot join hands. They cannot shake hands. Hence, it cannot become how may. But the meaning could not get clear to the Sikhism because they joined the word how and may. They read it as how may. It should have been separate. Nanak hukme jai bujhe. If this secret is understood, that everything is his will, मैं कर नहीं रहा, हो रहा है. I am not speaking. The voice is coming through me. You are not listening. The sound is coming to you. It is happening to you. How can you see I am listening? Think about it. For speaking, I have to move my lips and open my mouth. What do you have to do to listen? The ears are always there. The sound energy is always going in. You may be able to say, I am not listening. That happened many times, isn't it? We say, would you repeat it? I didn't understand. Why? Well, my mind was somewhere else. You can say, I am not listening, but you can never claim that you are listening. So, if you understood the fact that everything is an event taking place, it is a happening. मैं बच्चे पाल रहा जी, मैं बच्चों ਨੂੰ ਪੜ੍ਹਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਜੀ, मैं बच्चों ਨੂੰ ਵਿਆਹ ਰਿਹਾ जी. Isn't that common thing? We're raising our children, we're educating our children, we're going to get them married and off, we're taking care of them, we're taking care of our responsibilities. The question is it? If that is the case, then Guru Nanak says you haven't understood the hukam. Thank you. You really haven't understood the hukam. Everything is within his will. It's meant to be. So then what am I? Well, you are an instrument. You are a player. You are an actor. Given the role, and that's the role that's playing through you. The energy is coming through you. The energy is flowing through you. And you can say as much as you want to say, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that. If nature wants you to do it, it will make it impossible for you not to do it. And you can test if that's this hypothesis, we can all in our life test within our own life, anytime. Because nature creates the circumstances where there is only one logical choice left, to do it. Because it wants you to do it that way. Go through that way. So, we concluded last week saying there is a riddle. We're going to try to solve that riddle. And I hope that we have addressed that riddle. The first stanza ended by saying Hukam Razai Chalana. And second stanza said Hukme Andar Sabko. How do they reconcile with each other? The first one is saying try to understand, try to hear that word. Don't go to the saints and don't go to the books and don't ask any preacher as to what is the right action. Guru Nanak says, Nanak likhya now. It's written inside you. Close your eyes and listen to that individual. Now that's the key. If you are a divisible yourself, if you are multiple inside you, one part saying go this way, other part saying go that way, one part saying this and the other part saying don't do nothing, just sit, this is all drama. Right? Gorakhpuri used to say, इस फंदे को कैसे खोले बंदा, एक फंदे के बाद दूसरा फंदा, ये दुनिया अरे काहे की दुनिया, ये तो गोरख धंधा, बहुत अजीब गोरख धंधा. So गोरख धंधा. Why it was called Gorakh Dhanda? Because if you go to Yogi, Gorakhnath was the originator of this system, that they have so many things to do and don't do's for the human mind and body. It is absolutely mind-boggling. Little things. Kan vi padwao te, na koi padwao te, jatra vi badao te, Gorakh Dhanda. That's why I used to call Gorakh Dhanda, because it's so difficult to follow that system. Anyway, so Guru Nanak says, first thing, learn to listen to the hukam. How would you listen to that hukam? He says, you have to be an individual, which is indivisible. The mind is not going. Mind is not divided, which even when you are sitting quietly, one says, I should get up. They'll say, no, sit down. I'm thirsty. No, don't worry about it. You're not going to drink. Should I open the eyes? No, don't open the eyes. So there is a continuous chattering inside you. If your mind has a quality where there are multiple scenarios playing inside your own self, you will not be able to listen to the hukam. The day your mind becomes one, and how does it become one? He says, well, jap. Jap diyan. The noise level of the mind shuts off, and then you can listen to that hukam, jada tere andar hai. Then you don't need any teacher, or professors, or saints, or your Santjis and Mahatmajis, and Nothing. Guru says it's all inside in you. Listen to it. Follow that. You will not be making wrong choice. Remember, every choice that you will be making is His will. Every choice that you will be making. Should I get married? Well, okay, that's a choice. If you get married, it was His will. If you don't get married, it was His will. Both are included in His will because they are both choices. You have not gone against the will by making any one of those choices. You know that if you put this choice, getting married, then these responsibilities are going to come with it. If you don't get married, these responsibilities are going to come with it. Because they're all choices. None of them good, none of them bad. None of them right, none of them wrong. None of them sin, none of them the holy. They're all choices. So, from this point onward, okay, so if we want to understand the hukum and we want to follow the hukum, how has this been done so far? We'll take next time when we come. It will start from Gave Kutan. What does Gave means here? What that Tan means here? We'll talk when we meet back in 15 days. With this, I want to thank you all for coming, and we'll continue this journey 2 weeks from today.